Well, at 4:25 Eastern Time this Sunday, all eyes are going to be on the Indianapolis Colts versus the Denver Broncos in what will be a playoff game. Because if the Colts win this, they move to 7-7, and the Denver Broncos move to 8-6. Now, this is for the remaining wild card spot, and we've talked about what could happen. Given that the fall apart of the Houston Texans and the remaining schedule, it doesn't look like it's going to be an easy one for either of these teams. And yet, after this game, the Colts have what could be considered a cakewalk, especially considering the teams that they have left. But all eyes are going to be on the Indianapolis Colts this weekend, and the Colts got some really, really good news and a little bit of bad news, but we'll cover all of that as we get into this video. What's going on? It's Elijah from Sports Talk Indy, where we cover all things Colts every single day. And let's get into the good news first. The good news first is that Ryan Kelly and Jalen Carleys have been designated to return to practice. Now, if you remember correctly, both of these guys were on the IR with their specific injuries. And the Colts have missed, specifically Jalen Carleys, who is starting to really bud into his own as a defender and really starting to, especially in the pursuit game, you really started to notice him in what he was able to do in his last couple games. And Ryan Kelly, obviously been a staple of this offensive line. Now, does he still have it? Who knows? Has this injury been what's been nagging him this season? And maybe that's why he's not played up to the same caliber that we know that he can and that he has for the Indianapolis Colts for several years. We don't know. And I do think that this injury was nagging. It definitely, there wasn't like a specific incident, but let's get into it. The 21-day practice window has officially opened for both of these players to practice with the Colts teammates remaining on the injured reserve, and that means they can either be activated or revert to essentially season-ending injured reserve by the end of its closure. And with the last week being a bye, Kelly has missed the last 4 games because of a knee injury, but Indianapolis remained hopeful that their veteran starting center will be ready for Week 15 and critical road matchup against the Denver Broncos. This has been, I think, a game circled by the Indianapolis Colts front office and coaches for a long time. I think there was a long time that this was going to be the game that was going to possibly be the pivot point. I think early on in the season, you started to see Denver really start to butt into their own, really start to be their own team. That's far and well beyond where I think a lot of people thought they were going to be already in the second year with Sean Payton, the first year with Bo Nix. And I think that for a Colts team who knew that the Houston Texans were going to possibly run away with this division, who knew that it was going to fall apart for them so quickly. And, I mean, that division is still very much up for grabs for the Indianapolis Colts. But looking to the wild card spot, it does seem like they were really planning on, especially with the treatment of Josh Downs' injury, the treatment of Jalen Carleys, the treatment of Ryan Kelly. It feels like this game was essentially what they were saving for. Now, I also think that they were much more hopeful that they were going to be able to pull out stronger wins against the Jets and the Patriots. But I mean, here we are. We're still 8-6, or I'm sorry, we're still 6-7, and very likely looking at what could be the beginning of the first playoff berth since 2019, or 2020 rather. Per PFF, Ryan Kelly is the 21st best center with a 63 overall grade during the 2024 season, which is not great. In his 7 starts, rookie Tanner Bortolini has held his own in Kelly's absence, and Indianapolis even got a nice spot for their 4th-year veteran Danny Pinter in Week 13. Now, meanwhile, Carleys hasn't seen action since Week 7, since he went down with a fibula injury and was placed on the injured reserve thereafter. Now, here's the one I really want to get into, and that is, let me pull up the specifics of this because I don't want to get it wrong. But we got some news today per Josh Downs. And that is that he is officially limited in practice today. Now, here's the injury report. Braden Smith did not practice. We'll get into that in a second. And then Josh Downs was a shoulder injury. He was limited, which means that he did practice, which is great. Tanner Bortolini is back with in full participant with from the concussion, and then Ryan Kelly was limited in practice. Jalen Carleys was a full. Michael Pittman was full. DeForest Buckner was a full participant. Ashton Dulin was a do not practice. Now, this is, I think, where this is going to be really important because Josh has been Downs has been battling a shoulder injury for a little while now, but he was able to log a limited practice session on Wednesday. He will still have a good shot at suiting up for Week 15. Now, this is the big one, right? This is, I think, where the Colts have really been waiting to see if Josh Downs will be ready because obviously missing last week or the last playable game. So he's been out for a few weeks. But now looking ahead, it does seem as though the Indianapolis Colts have a real shot at bringing in their star wide receiver. And I think that it's all things considering, I think Michael Pittman was like the clear-cut number one wide receiver, right? And yet we go into this season, we go into this part, week 15, coming to the close of the season already, which is just wild to me that we're already here. And Josh Downs and Alec Pierce have been the playmakers of this offense. Now, that's still with a budding Anthony Richardson, and obviously Michael Pittman's going to command more defenders and more people, but Josh Downs really, really budding already into being his own guy in the slot and to being one of the best, if not the best slot wide receiver in football right now. I think this is going to be really, really good for the Indianapolis Colts. And as we get into the game, I mean, this is something that I think is really challenging for the Colts because statistically speaking, the Indianapolis Colts are going against one of the best defenses in football, which is, again, that's going to be very challenging for a team that offensively still hasn't found who they are. You've got some weeks where the Colts are a run and gun, and there's some weeks where the Colts are trying to win a shootout battle. And yet you've seen some glimpses against some good defenses that the Colts have been really good, and then against some defenses that you didn't expect for them to, they've really, really struggled. And so really it's the tale of which side of the coin are we going to get this weekend. I truly believe that the Indianapolis Colts are starting to butt into their own, and if we can get the defense that we've seen glimpses of this season with an offense, again, that we've seen glimpses of this season at opposite times, I truly believe that this could be a winnable game for the Indianapolis Colts and could really make the Broncos start to shake in their heels a little bit or shake in their boots a little bit, because the remaining for the Broncos schedule is the Chiefs. And then let me pull it up because I know it's the Chiefs. They still have the Chiefs schedule. Let me pull it up. Yeah, so the remainder of this season, they will have the Colts, the Chargers, the Bengals, and the Chiefs. So those are going to be very, very difficult games all the way around. The Colts being the easiest one for them. But yeah, I mean they're going against the Chargers in prime time on Thursday, so they're gonna have a short week even after this week, and then Cincinnati and then Kansas City. So those are also two very difficult games that they're gonna have to really. Those are gonna be shootout games. All three of those are gonna be shootout games. So this one against the Colts is very, very important for the Broncos, and yet it's important for the Colts. Don't get me wrong. If the Colts don't win this game, it is still very, very likely that they will go 9-8 to finish the season, still having a shot at that playoff game, but they need the head-to-head win against the Broncos. So the last bit of news that we were talking about, which is the bad news, is that the Colts could be without longtime tackle Braden Smith for the remainder of the season. And then head coach Shane Steichen revealed that Smith's personal matter could keep him out longer than expected. He will be out for this weekend's matchup as he deals with a personal matter, and then Shane Steichen declined to share details of the situation as he wants to respect Braden Smith's privacy during trying times, but would go on to admit that he doesn't know if Smith will return at all this season. Smith first began dealing with said personal matter back in November as the Colts were preparing Anthony Richardson's first game back from benching against the New York Jets. Smith popped up on the injury reserve with an aforementioned personal matter a day ahead of the game and has continued to pop up on subsequent injury reports each week since. So we don't know what that means for Braden Smith. Obviously, prayers up for him and for whatever he's going through. It's very, very clearly very serious. Braden Smith has been a staple of this offensive line for a number of seasons, and so we hope all the best for him. But that is a big deal for the Indianapolis Colts, as it will likely continue to be. We could see Glowinski back. We could see Dalton Tucker back. Who knows what that offensive line is going to look like at right guard, and then obviously Matt Gonzalez likely staying at right tackle. But we will cover that as we get more information on that and as we get the details of what that starting offensive line is going to look like as we get closer to game day.